You guys, for months, the biggest question has been, where are the children? And now that their families have that answer, we have to turn down another dark road as we piece together how and why they died. It's impossible to understand the dark road that somehow led us here. Family confirming that 7-year-old JJ Vallow and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan were the two bodies found hidden in Chad Daybell's backyard.
This has been a very trying thing for everybody involved.
Their mother, Lori Vallow Daybell, and her new husband, Chad, both behind bars. Lori facing desertion charges, and Chad now facing charges for concealing evidence.
Mr. Daybell, do you understand the allegations on both counts that have been brought against you?
I do.
If they were in any danger.
No idea what happened.
You're right. Nobody does because you said nothing.
Because everybody sees what's on TV.
That has nothing to do with TV. This is when you're in my conversations before you left and cut me off. And now you expect me to be there for you and you were going to abandon me. And if you weren't in jail, you wouldn't even be talking to me and we wouldn't even know they were dead still.
Hello and welcome back to Rise in Crime. Today I have a very crazy story for you all. It's the story of the Doomsday Killers. The story of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell is one of twisted beliefs, betrayal, and ultimately murder. What started as a fascination with apocalyptic teachings turned into a nightmare for everyone close to them. But it is the tragic and horrifying fate of their children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, that marks the darkest part of their story. On September 8, 2019, Tylee Ryan, Lori's 16-year-old daughter, visited Yellowstone National Park with her mother, her little brother JJ, and her uncle Alex Cox. It was a sunny day, filled with tourists and families, but for Tylee, it was her last day alive. Just a couple of weeks later, on the night of September 22nd, JJ Vallow, Lori's 7-year-old adopted son, was seen playing in the courtyard of the apartment complex. It was the last time he would ever be seen alive. Lori later claimed he was safe and sound, but that was far from the truth. Behind closed doors, Lori and Chad had come to believe that both Tylee and JJ were dark spirits. In their warped worldview, such spirits had to be eliminated. Investigators believe that shortly after that visit to Yellowstone, Tylee was killed. Her remains were found severely burned and dismembered, buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. The exact details of her final moments are unclear, but her body showed signs of extreme violence and deliberate attempts to erase her existence. In a harrowing and calculated act, her body was burned and buried, hidden as though she had never existed. The brutality suggested not only the act of murder, but a complete disregard for her as a person, a child robbed of her future by those she trusted most. JJ's last night alive, September 22nd, tells a similar story. Witnesses heard JJ's playful energy as he played outside, but later that night, his spirit would be brutally extinguished. Investigators believe he was smothered, his tiny body wrapped in plastic and bound with duct tape. His remains, like Tylee's, were found buried on Chad's property, hidden in a shallow grave. They were innocent, they were children, and they trusted Lori, their mother, who should have protected them. It's unthinkable. Chad Daybell's books painted a world divided between light and dark spirits. Lori became obsessed with this idea, convinced that her own children were part of a dark force. As Lori's obsession deepened, she and Chad formed what could only be described as a dangerous pact, a mission to rid themselves of obstacles they believed were possessed by dark entities. Through Chad's influence, Lori believed she was on a divine mission to cleanse the world, and her children, once beloved and cherished, became victims of her distorted beliefs. Tylee and JJ were not the only victims. Lori's fourth husband, Charles Vallow, had raised alarms about Lori's behavior, even claiming she was a danger to those around her. In July 2019, Charles was shot by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, in what Alex claimed was self-defense. The circumstances were questionable, but Charles's warnings went unheeded, leaving a chilling prelude to what would happen to Tylee and JJ. Just months later, in October 2019, Chad's own wife, Tammy Daybell, died suddenly. Chad insisted she had died peacefully in her sleep, but days after her death, he was already married to Lori. It was a pattern of removing obstacles, one by one, as they paved the way for their twisted vision. Some of Tammy's family members are on record saying, Tammy was young and healthy. She didn't just pass away in her sleep. We knew something wasn't right. Alex Cox played a chilling role as Lori's protector, her enforcer. Not only was he involved in the deaths of Charles Vallow and Tylee and JJ, but investigators believe he helped Lori carry out her deadly mission. But just months later, Alex himself died under mysterious circumstances, leaving investigators with more questions. Was he silenced, or had he merely fulfilled his grim role?
The Idaho man at the center of a missing children's case is in custody. Chad Daybell was arrested this morning by police for questioning after a search warrant of his home came up with human remains. Idaho officials say he was booked, but they're not saying what for. They say he will make his first court appearance tomorrow.
During the investigation, the investigators and detectives have recovered what's believed to be human remains that are not identified at this time. I do want to add that Chad Daybell, who resides at that residence, has also been taken into custody.
As suspicions mounted, law enforcement finally took action. In 2020, Lori and Chad were arrested, each charged in connection with the deaths of Tylee, JJ, Tammy, and Charles. But for many, no sentence could heal the wounds of those left behind. On April 26, 2023, Dr. Garth Warren, a forensic pathologist, revealed JJ's cause of death. The boy was asphyxiated with a plastic bag and duct tape over his mouth. Meanwhile, Tylee's cause of death was determined homicide by unspecified means. On May 12, 2023, Lori was found guilty of murder and grand theft. She reportedly showed no visible emotion while the verdict was being read. A mere days later, Lori was indicted by a grand jury in Arizona for allegedly conspiring to kill her niece's husband, Brandon Boudreaux, on February 24, 2022. Arizona police say Lori's late brother, Alex Cox, shot at Boudreaux outside his home, but he survived the incident. In July 2023, Lori was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She addressed the court prior to her sentencing and claimed that JJ visited her after his death and said, "You didn't do anything wrong, Mom." She clearly should have never had children. Chad was sentenced to death for murdering JJ and Tylee, and I know I cannot be the only one thinking that is a good thing. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell did not act out of love, nor did they act alone. They were driven by a belief system that justified the unthinkable, and their children paid the ultimate price. Today, those who loved Tylee and JJ are left with memories and the painful reality of lives taken by the very people meant to protect them. Lori and Chad's mission ended in horror, leaving an indelible scar. It's a story of betrayal and darkness, a reminder of how belief can turn deadly. May we remember Tylee and JJ as the light they truly were, and may justice bring peace to their souls.
Tylee has visited me. She is happy and very busy. Tylee is free now from all the pains of her life. Tylee suffered horrible physical pain her whole life. I sat with Tylee in the hospital year after year after year while she screamed in pain when the morphine wasn't even enough to take away the pain of her pancreatitis. I sat there while she cried and I held back her hair while she threw up. And I am the only person on this earth who knows how much Tylee suffered in her life. She had pain every single day. She never felt good. Her body did not work right. And I don't know if that was from complications from me dying while she was being born or something else, but she had a very difficult life.
Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Stay safe.